Howdy y'all, welcome back to my channel. My name is Aaron Cavley, and today I'm going to do a review of the new hostile rules from Zozer Games. This is probably one of my favorite settings for sci-fi. It has certainly replaced ones I've liked in the past. If you want some more information on the setting, I've got a review of the setting book also on my channel. I'll put a link down below. And you got a good picture there on the intro, but I'll try to get a non-glary picture. It doesn't come quite across on my camera with my insufficient lights, but it has a nice dark kind of mysterious outline green that is a lot of the artwork in Hostile uses. Its theme, if you will. And since I'm bragging, I also took the opportunity to order a bunch of stuff from Lulu. You get Zozer Games sells their physical copies on Lulu. These are all real cheap as PDFs, and they basically just cover the basics. You know, you've got your guns and your technical manual, which discusses the more in depth of the technology assumptions of the setting. The gun locker, which is handy if you have PCs that like to shoot things, and who doesn't. And then the toolkits is very good for, it has all the like survival gear tools, radios, comms, that kind of stuff. All the non-shooty people tools that the PCs like. You can see it comes in close to the same size as the setting book. We come back here. We have 237 pages in the rules. And 319, including indexes and all the front end matter, in the setting book. Now, it must be said, part of that is because some of the information in the setting book is recreated in the rules. Now, also, what must be said is that you don't actually need this rule book to play the hostile setting. It's designed to be used with Cepheus engine. In fact, the campaign I ran using the hostile setting was with using the Cepheus Light engine, and that information is in the setting book to make your character. You know, there's some adjustment with the skills and how the characters are made a little bit, but is sufficient to run a campaign with a free Cepheus engine rules or the Cepheus Light and or Cepheus Deluxe, which has come out now recently from Stella Gamma. But this is Zozer Games' addition to the line using its own version of the rules, if you will. This is from Lulu. I do have a little crinkle in the cover there. Cardboard's not crinkled, so that might just have been some kind of processing error. Not enough to make me overly concerned about it, and hopefully my poor camera and light won't affect too much. I've got like a slightly spiffier camera, but it just didn't want to cooperate with my video software today. Normally when I do these, I go through the PDF because it's a little simpler, but I thought this time, just to change things up and to, you know, be more real, I would flip through the physical copy. A typical beginning, what it does, what is role playing, a brief description of the types of campaign that Hostile would run. The theme is a gritty industrial 80s 90s kind of sci-fi retro tech kind of setting, like Aliens and Blade Runner. Here's a list of other books coming out. And this right here is one I'm looking forward to, Hostile Solo. Paul Elliott, the guy behind Zozer Games, he has a couple other solo things for Traveler. A lot of like Hostile, a lot of his rule sets and products are based around Traveler. And I actually tried to use one of his the solo rules for a short Hostile game. It worked okay, but it is it's a different theme. Traveler is a different theme than Hostile. So we start game terminology, good stuff. And I like how the front of the book. I hadn't really noticed it. Oops, I hadn't noticed it on the other one, or I'd noticed it, but it hadn't really stuck out to me. But it's has like a document serial number. I'm assuming that's the Mining Regulatory Authority, which is one of the big powers in the game. Anyone familiar with Cepheus Engine or the OGL 2D6 sci-fi game known as Traveler will recognize this. It's a 2D6 plus modifiers plus skills with a 8 or higher. The task resolution system is pretty simple. If you have characteristic roles, meaning something that would not necessarily require a skill, unskilled labor or hopping, across a stream or something. Skill rolls, attack rolls, perception rolls, everything except for the characteristic roll defaults to 8, and depending on the level of difficulty or stress, maybe you modify by your dice modifier, DM, you modify your roll. These are pretty thick pages. They're nice pages. The back of the back of the pages, the background looks that's cool. It looks like like decking. I have run through this once before, but I haven't gone in depth in some of the areas. So we'll just run through time and checks. Here's the area for creating your characters. Let's see. Just for bragging rights and full disclosure, I contributed a tiny, teensy little bit to this. There was no compensation or anything involved. I'm not even exactly sure all that was, but in case those of you who are out there in good hostile fashion suspect a conspiracy, none is here. Of course, that's what a conspiracy person would say, or someone caught up in a conspiracy would. This talks about the different types of crews, hostile characters. Because space is grim and dangerous and not to the point in this setting where it is a touristy type of place, there's a lot of common traveler careers. You don't find them in here. Space is a place for workers and people with specific jobs, and these are pretty much the careers that it uses. Okay, talking about the statistics, how to roll, how to generate the characters, and these are your careers. And most of them are you could come up with corollaries pretty easy. It's a random creation. Qualifying for the draft. If you don't manage to get in the career you want, you get a random career assigned to you where you end up getting kicked out or finding a place, a billet. And then an injury table, and aging effects table. Common Traveler Cepheus engine stuff, but it's tweaked. Like the mustering out benefits and stuff are tweaked for the hostile setting. Now here we have notable features that you can roll up for your character: height, weight, some background story if you want, suit badges, which I think I recently saw in another game. Was that Mothership? I think. And here's the careers. Anyone again familiar? You roll your stats, roll to see if you live. Yes, you can die. Actually, let me see if that's true. Let me go back to the injury table. You can die in mine. I'll put it that way. If I'm your GM, you can definitely die in character creation. So you save all the details until you've passed all your survival rolls. There's that injury table. I just passed it. Okay. All right. Well, it looks like here that it's not really designed for you to die, but you can be nearly killed and you get messed up, lose all your points, which is bad enough. It has a reduced list compared to some Traveler or Cepheus engine versions. It rolls several of them up together. This section right here is probably one of the neatest things I think of this book. In Cepheus engine, it's a low skill level kind of game. If you have a skill level of 1, then you're professional level. 2 or 3, and you really are getting to the point where you're well known in your trade, in your field. You're kind of an expert. But this talks about what those skill levels actually mean, and it actually correlates. Like if your career is civilian or the different militaries, what that actually equates to. Like aircraft 1 means you have a national pilot's license. That's cool. Medical and liaison, that means your medical psychotherapy license. Medical 2 EMT license. And so you basically generate your character, come up with the skills, and then you use that as background information. And if in some of these situations, some of the scenarios or campaigns, you may still be attached to the corporation or to the military unit or whatever, and so it'll tell you what your, it helps guide you what your position in that unit was or is, or well, was if you got out. You can say, this is what I was. I was a computer systems officer, and that's pretty cool to see it printed out. Okay, wages and prices, hazards. There's a divergence in a lot of games to either go more streamlined and less detailed, more narrative, which I don't have a problem with. I play narrative games, all the time too. But this has gone to more of the details, like the actual kind of physics-based details of when it's talking about the hazards and stuff. We'll get to that into a second. Stress, there is a new stress mechanic similar to one that I had homebrewed, but this works really well, and it's basically, it uses intelligence as a attribute that can be damaged as you run into these terrible experiences, because it's a hostile universe. There's people freak out, people get eaten by hostile aliens, or shot to pieces by crazed schizzing androids, things like that. And so it gives you a list of stress events, and it has a good stress system. I like that. Because those of you who aren't familiar with Cepheus Engine or Traveler, when you take damage, it's subtracted from your physical attributes, strength, dex, and endurance. And this kind of does the same thing. If you fail the stress roll, you take a temporary loss to your intelligence, which works pretty well too because it represents you losing focus. What I was saying before about things being more detailed, because hostile is not just about hostile flora and fauna, it's about having hostile worlds. You may escape you may kill the thing with fire, but now you're stuck in the middle of the Antarctic, and now you've got to fight the Antarctic and survive it, or in this case, the airless world or wherever you happen to run into your trouble. And so it has good sections on these type of things, and having being based in Traveler has always had a lot of variables for planets, the UPP, the Universal Planet Profile, talking about temperatures, how to incorporate them. Radiation, that's a good one because space has a lot of radiation. Pressure loss, that's an interesting one too. This is good. And these things, even though I say they're more detailed, none of them are really hard to incorporate. It's not like you would have to stop in the middle of your game and whip out your calculator to figure this stuff out. It is very streamlined in that sense, but it has enough detail to allow it to have a little more verisimilitude than just saying good radiation, bad radiation, or whatever. Pressure losses, obviously, an important part too. And it still has the cool corporate flyer pictures in it. And these are just basically all of the campaign things: travel, underwater, movement, and communications. A lot of detail on important things because it is kind of a hard sci-fi setting. Even though it has a couple hand-wavium things in it, it is mostly a hard sci-fi setting. And hostile. It's hard and hostile. Here's a section on desert survival and Antarctic survival, and just a very, like I said, it's very simple to run. It's just a matter of keeping track of the environment. It's nothing hard to do, but you have that there because it is a hostile environment. And a lot of the planets in the setting, they're not these garden worlds. A lot of them are unlivable outside of the main colony without appropriate protection. Combat. Again, it's kind of if you're familiar with how the combat works in Traveler or Cepheus Engine, it's about the same. It uses an initiative system that, aside from whether one side or the other is ambushed, all the player characters act, then any NPC squad members act, and then finally the enemy acts. There's a little bit of confusion on my part, well, not on my part, but confusing to me, because here it says that melee attacks always go first to kind of incorporate the fact that someone may be able to stab someone before they're able to get their shot off. And here it says because it does it because they want to, make the other person decide whether or not they're going to try to wait their turn to shoot or try to defend themselves or fight in a melee. But then it also says that all the players go first. So I'm not exactly sure if you're supposed to, like, everyone that does melee, all the players do melee, and then the NPCs do melee, and then the players do aim fire, and then everyone else does aim fire, or vice versa, or not vice versa, but and so on and so forth. I asked which way it was, one or the other, and kind of got a yes as an answer. So, but aimed fire, it uses for automatic fire. Basically, just the rate of fire uses one shot. You get one attack, obviously. In a 4 round burst and 10 round burst, it just breaks those down until you get so many attacks depending on the size of the burst that you're firing. In hostile, most of the automatic weapons have a 4 round burst, and the fully automatic weapons have a 10 round burst. And I like the fact that it uses attacks. One of the Traveler and Cepheus engine mechanics is that it adds, like, if you auto fire this many, you add that auto fire to the damage, but it doesn't, to me anyway, it doesn't work very well, because you could be firing a rifle that does 3 die 6 on auto and hit someone 3 times, and you get, like, +3 damage instead of hitting with 3 distinct rounds. So I like that. Actually, my personal favorite is where you take the number of dice in the burst and roll, and then pair up, roll them all, and then pair them up. I don't remember which version of Traveler used that, but I thought that was that's kind of my favorite mechanic. Um, yeah, see, Frenzy Fire does that where you're shooting, you blaze off the rest of your ammo, and you get extra damage. Um, So I would probably just do that using the auto rules myself, because I'm firing off my remaining 357 rounds, and uh, I only get 1 point extra damage, which doesn't gel with the simulationist in me. This area fire, in fact, a lot of the combat for this book was taken from Zozer Games' Modern Combat, which is it's a modern combat. It uses like a modern military campaign setting, and a lot of this is taken from that and tweaked a little bit for the sci-fi bit. And one of the cool mechanics that I like is this area fire, because whenever you get into a larger gunfight, it can be hard using regular aim rules to simulate shooting at guys that are, that you can't even see, or maybe you're just seeing their muzzle flashes and you're just kind of laying down fire in that area. Um, and this uses a die 6 pool and makes it a secret roll, so that they don't know, the players don't know if they're actually hitting people. And instead of counting like ammo necessarily, or rolling all these attacks, people make the PCs make skill rolls, and then it adds to a dice pool. And then every time a 6 is rolled, then somebody on the other side is taken out. And it's secret, so they don't know, because if they're rolling around, if they're hiding behind cover, or in the thick veg, then you get that you get that good effect doing that. I like it. I'm not necessarily sure if it's, because they do have, in the Cepheus engine, they have what do I call it, covering fire rules, which are a little simpler, but I think these are a little more fun. I think I like that. So the engine recovery section, for anyone who's familiar with, again, the Traveler, like I said before, it attacks um, your physical stats, and depending on how many of your physical stats are 0, determines your injury level. When 2 characteristics are reduced to 0, you're unconscious and seriously wounded, and um, that's a little harsh compared to some of the other Cepheus engines, but that's kind of how if I remember, that's kind of how classic Traveler did it. It was very easy to get, very easy to get knocked out, which I like that, I like that idea. Getting shot's not good for you. Now it also has this little, once you're injured, it has a little table for, disabled limbs and stuff. I would have liked to have seen, I don't know, maybe something a little more detailed or specific with the injuries myself. And so I will probably make a chart. Actually, I may have a chart that I use for the other campaign already. And then healing, armor in this is generalized damage resistance. And here's objects, some good vehicle rolls. We see a list of our vehicle weapons. The vehicle combat, I think, was borrowed or at least influenced by the Cepheus Light rule. So it kind of strips out, and I think it's a good compromise because it strips out some of the complication of the Cepheus engine, but leaves some of the cool detail. Because you do have component hits and things like that, so it's not just like the vehicles lose health points. And same thing with the space combat. I like this cool in-flight checklist, and it looks very piloty. And this section here not only has information on the spaceships, but how to actually run a a space line, basically how to run a ship. All the things for those people who enjoy Traveler, who enjoy the merchant, the trading, free trader Beowulf kind of thing. This section, and also in the hostile setting, and a couple other products from Zozer, like Crew Expendable, Colonial Freighter. There's a lot of details on how to run a trading campaign. A lot of good information on the regulatory agencies, refueling, and it talks about pay, which is of course what everyone wants when they're being a space trucker, right? And starship combat is kind of like the vehicle combat. It's streamlined, has a lot of roles that are abstracted together, but it's cool. It has it tries to make sure that everybody, at least if they're part of the crew, has a job function so that they're involved. Here's your kind of hard sci-fi weapon list. Lasers and missiles, basically, and railguns. And your autonomous kill vehicles, which are just big smart-ass missiles. And then the section on creating worlds. Again, the UPP, the Traveler. I'd say a backbone of a Traveler campaign, the world data, creating worlds. And it breaks down, the size, the rotation, a lot of good information, in reality-based information on the types of atmospheres that you would find, the pressure compared to the atmosphere, compared to the size and the gravity. And I'll say that there's a lot of that information there, but in in the setting, there's a lot of these planets already made. There's a ton of places that are already created with the UPP. So you don't. It's not a setting where you have to go and make up all your planets. If you're using the hostile setting, there are a ton of places already worked out and detailed in the mini books, the mini supplements. But if you want to make your own colony and planet, it's good to have that information. Okay, there's trade goods, space encounters. I like encounter sections because I have several encounter books, random encounter books, but it's good to have them where they're actually designed for the game. Ship malfunctions, because of course you can't just have a normal flight. You got to have bad things happen, right? All right, had to pause there for boring reasons, but or was I? Oh yes, the encounters. It has a good range of encounters. Space encounters and ecology encounters, locals. Some good patrons. A lot of good tables back here. Animal creation, creature creation, another traveler staple. Managing your crew. Some more stuff on basically running the games, and then hexes. If you buy this if you get the physical version, you'll get a free PDF, and there's other free downloads and stuff on the ZozerGames.com. Let's see, vehicle mounted weapons. Now it has the vehicle mounted weapons here. There's not an equipment in the rules because it's already published in other books, like the gun locker, and in the settings rules has a bunch of information in it too, ships and things like that. So I guess the last thing to talk about, I'm hitting the half-hour mark here, is the art. Ian Stead is responsible, I think, for most of the art. It lists Ian Stead and Paul Elliott. I'm not sure whose is whose, but I know Ian Stead does a lot of excellent artwork in the Cepheus engine region or realm of games. But that's the art in this book is awesome. It's very evocative. It's high quality. Uh, as I've said in other reviews, I kind of have a great the uncanny value bothers me with CGI characters, but when it's the humans, just the humans, but the like the fog effect there is pretty good. So I don't really notice it on that picture. But the planetscapes, and let's see if I can find some other good ones here. See that one that looks really good. That that looks very good. I like that. And the artwork is it's very gritty, and a lot of the art in this book, all the art in the Hostile line is pretty good, but a lot of the art in this book, and look at that landscape, just awesome landscapes. The art is filtered somehow. I'm not an artist, I don't know about those things, but a lot of the CGI pictures, they're, I don't know if they're blurred or what the filter is, but it makes it look more photographic than just a CGI, rendering. But that's awesome. And here we see some great landscape art, very very evocative, very alien world, and a lot of these are desolate because a lot of the worlds in Hostile are desolate worlds. And maybe that's just a, it's probably a picture of some Earth landscape that's been filtered to make it look barren and cold. But see, that's just it's great art. I love the art and the mechanical art, the guns and the vehicles. They look very good too. I like those. And with the other, as with the other ships that they've put out, the the ships have a um, hard sci-fi-ish look to them. See, that's awesome. Anyway, the art is good. It's very evocative. It really makes it seem like a hard sci-fi and gritty industrial colony world stuff. So that's wonderful right there. That's great. Love the art. Love that ship. I think I may have seen that one somewhere else. Not that reusing pieces of art is a crime or anything. That one's really cool. Art art generally does not make or break a purchase for me, but when it's really good, I appreciate it. And this whole line has really good art in there. So good job, Ian instead, and Paul, whichever who did whichever. Okay. Well, that pretty much wraps it up. The hostile rules setting. I think it looks perfect for the setting, the hostile setting. It has um, enough of the traveler backbone that people who are familiar with Traveler and Cepheus Engine will have no problem with it. It'll be very recognizable, and it's tweaked uh, very well towards the type of setting that Hostile is. Anyway, I hope you enjoy the review, and I hope it convinces you to buy some Zozer Game books because I like Paul's stuff, and I like to see more, especially that Hostile solo. Anyway, happy gaming, and we'll see you next time.